So yeah, the last time I was here, I was talking about my kids, knowing about what cocksucking is. Since then, we caught one surfing the web for porn. Yeah. His mom and I are divorced. She wrote to me one morning and said, she sent me this link dump from her cache. And it was like, you know, all like, Jenny and Vanessa fucking, and all these terrible things. And I was like, oh my God. And I turned to my wife and I'm like, look, thing 2 is called surfing porn. She was like, really? So I clicked on a link, like this, and my wife was like, ah, my eyes! I don't want to see what he saw! So, you know, my ex-wife was like, you've just got to come over and talk to him about it. So I drive over to the house and I wake him up. Well, he's pretending to be asleep, but he can tell that something bad has gone down. So I get him up. I'm like, come on, come with me. I figure we're going to go get like a pastry, and I'm going to have the whole Courtship of Eddie's father kind of dad talk with him. And we're driving there, and I'm like, so you know what I'm here about? He's like, I don't want to get blamed. And I'm like, blamed for what? He goes, it wasn't me. And I'm like, what wasn't you? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, yeah, we know that you were surfing the naked... Oh, let me tell you his search terms. It's like a kid's first step. And I swear, I know this is the first time he's ever tried this, and you will know too when you hear the search term. The first one was nudies. He logged that as like, as soon as I get alone with the computer, I'm going to check some of that shit out. Nudies, 2 links, clearly not what he's looking for, then nude girls. Boom! So I'm like, and then like 6 links, and by that time my ex-wife's computer was completely crippled with malware and he had to stop. So I say, you know, we know that you surfed some naked ladies on the internet last night. He said, it wasn't me. And I'm like, really? You're going to take that tack? He says, no, it wasn't me. And I said, okay, I'm going to go get your brother. You know how bad it's going to be for you when it turns out that you did do it? Like, I'm giving you amnesty right now. But when I find out that you did do it and you're lying to me, it's going to make it much worse. He's like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'm like, okay. So I turn the car around. I'm like, we're going to go back and we're going to interview your brother. I'm like, all of a sudden, an episode of Law & Order. Waiting to do the Sam Waterston eyebrow deploying. And I'm driving back, and this thought occurs to me. You know, parenting, it's all just like whatever you can try. So I go, you know, by the way, what you did last night is totally normal. There's a pause. And I go, and it's also completely normal to be kind of ashamed of what you did, like, you know, embarrassed. And there's another pause, and then I know I've got it. And I pulled the car to a stop, and I'm like, you did it, didn't you? And he's like, yes. So then I'm thinking, what do you say to an 11-year-old who's starting to look for this stuff? I know it's out there. And it's fucking terrifying. So I figure I can make him afraid of it for a little while, but I have to contextualize it for him. And how do you contextualize bukkake for an 11-year-old? What do they have that they can... What category can they possibly put that shit into? So I go off on this speech about how you should be afraid. There's a lot of scary stuff out there that you can't unsee. And then I tell them a story about how my grandfather was a world-famous breast cancer surgeon and wrote this seminal textbook on breast cancer called Diseases of the Breast, which I laser-locked onto at the age of 10 years old, thinking there would be some breasts in there, and there were. But they were the most frightening things I've ever seen in my life. I wanted nothing to do with those breasts and that huge blue and dark and cut open and absolutely could never unsee it. I told him this story. I said, there's stuff out there you can't unsee and you'll never get it out of your head. And at 11, your brain is way too plastic. You can't do that. And then I'm thinking, that's still not enough. And I'm like, here's the other thing you got to know, buddy. The internet, in a weird way, kind of hates women. Like a huge portion of the internet hates women. And he's like, why would they hate women? I have no idea. But there's a whole portion of the internet that wants to subjugate women and make them some sort of object for... And then I think, I can't tell them about bukkake. But really, you just have to... I figured if he sees something that's frightening, at least he can put it in this category. And then I'm trying to think... I mean, you know, I wish you could find porn where I found it, in my dad's art books or in a magazine that someone left in the library bathroom. That's nice, safe porn. So we're still waiting to find out what's going to happen with him. But I've been trying to picture, as these guys are getting older, I've been trying to picture myself at that age. And so, at 12, and actually at 13 years old, I remember I was working at the local public library as a book sorter, and sneaking glimpses at Our Bodies, Ourselves in the 700s. And then the New Bodies, Ourselves came out. Working at the public access cable station. That's right. I was such an elitist AV geek that fuck the AV nerds in high school, I'm going all the way to public access. Yeah. And it was the summer, and Dungeons and Dragons was just getting really big, and so the library said to me, would you like to host a summer Dungeons and Dragons program? Be the dungeon master for local kids, come in and lead it all summer long. And I did. I got the books. I looked it up. I made a dungeon, got some graph paper, and only 2 people showed up. Well, 3 people. My best friend, and then this really creepy future serial killer. I'm not sure he became a serial killer, but I'm pretty sure he became a serial killer. The name he chose was Rasputin. That was the name of his character. I want to be a rapist that's hard to kill. That's my goal. And this inordinately hot girl named Angela McFadden. I always debate whether or not to tell you her last name, but you know what? It's such a great last name, Angela McFadden. I was totally kind of awestruck by this girl. She was, I don't mean inordinately beautiful to me at like 13 years old. I mean inordinately beautiful to anybody at any time. And she wore this shirt. I remember the shirt she wore the first day. It had these big red lips on it, and she smoked, and she went to Stuyvesant in the city. And she was very cool, and we played. I don't remember anything that happened all summer long except that Rasputin died and she didn't. But really, Rasputin was never going to make it out alive. And then 6 months go by, and I get a phone call. My phone rings, and my mom comes to the door of my room. I'm, working with the Legos. And she says, there's a phone call for you, and it's a girl. I'm like, why? Really? Pick up the phone, and it's Angela, and she says, hi. I called every savage in the phone book, which is like, really? Wow. I called every savage in the phone book. I just thought you were really cool this summer, and I want to know if you wanted to hang out. I was like, yeah. And then I remember my parents are having a Christmas party that night, and at 13, 14 years old, I didn't get along with other kids. I got along with adults. I got along with the adults that my parents had over for dinner. And while that was the kind of my domain, it's cold fucking comfort when you have to go to school every day. But here was the opportunity to bring these 2 things together. I would be cool in this environment. So I said, my parents are having a Christmas party tonight. Why don't you and your mom come over and you can go to the Christmas party? So she comes in with her mom that evening, and my mom says, Adam, why don't you give Angela the tour of the house while I talk to her mom? And we didn't have a tour of the house. There was no routine called the tour. And I was like, oh, yeah, the tour of the house. Absolutely. So this is the kitchen, and these are the back stairs, and walking around. That's my room. Yeah, those are all my Legos. Yeah, no, the whole, yeah, both the space set and the city set. And the train. Yeah. Now, I can tell something's about to happen, and I can tell something's about to happen because I can't hear anything. What I hear is... Yeah, and all sorts of things are happening. And we walk out of my room, and my house my house I grew up in has this winding staircase that wraps around the kind of atrium. It's lovely. So I can hear my mom and Angela's mom talking downstairs, and we're at the top of the stairs. And it's like, well, now we're about to go downstairs, so maybe I better stop and something's going to happen. And then she smashes her face into mine, and this tongue, like a Guillermo del Toro thing, shoots out of her face and starts to swab the inside of my head. And I'm thinking, really? This is what it's wow, this is weird and not entirely awesome. I'm sorry, sir, we totally disagree with that assessment. We think this is completely awesome. Yes, that's right. My first kiss came about as a direct result of Dungeons and Dragons. I thought I should establish a little nerd cred there, as if I needed any. So if you've seen Woodstocks on the YouTubes before, you know that I've tended to like to sing some songs as Gollum. But this time, in honor of Dr. Demento and Weird Al and all these amazing acts that have been on stage, I thought I'd learn a new song. So if Mike Furman would come on out and help me out. Sorry, Logan. Absolutely.
In the break, I have learned that you can do this.
They're good for more than killing.
Exactly. I got a whole new life to live.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to sing a very, very important and famous song by a brilliant satirist, Tom Lehrer. Now, I did a corporate appearance this afternoon in San Diego, so I had 3 hours down and 3 hours back to practice this, and I'm pretty sure that the driver of the car was in fucking hates this song like no other song he's ever heard before. Because he heard it pretty much more times than anyone would ever hear it. I did it about 70 times. This is the Elements song. And one of the bonuses is I now know how to pronounce all of the elements. It should come in handy someday. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, hold on. Let me take a deep breath here. Okay. That's no time like the present. Let's do it. There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, duranium, and iron, uranium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, plutonium, vanadium, and lanthium, and osmium, and aspartame, and radium, and gold, and titanium, and iridium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and bismuth, bromide, lithium, beryllium, and barium. Everybody. There's holmium, and helium, and hafnium, and erbium, and phosphorus, and francium, and fluorine, and terbium, and manganese, and mercury, molybdenum, magnesium, dysonium, scandium, and cerium, and cesium, lead, praseodymium, and platinum, plutonium, palladium, prothenium, potassium, polonium, and tantalum, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium, and calcium, and chromium, and curium. There's sulfur. Sorry. Oh, here we. There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and mandolinium. Nope, I got it wrong again. This is my extended version of Mike's It's a Wonderful World. All right, I'm just going to start with that sulfur. Ready? There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, and stadium, nobelium, and argon, krypton, neon, radon, zinc, and rhodium, and chlorine, carbon, cobalt, copper, tungsten, tin, and sodium. These are the only ones of which the news has come to Harvard, and there may be many others, but they haven't been discovered. You want me to leave, or are you guys going to come out and join me?